I finally figured out what the problem was with my phone. All of the things that you delete, it's just like your email. It goes into what they call the recycling bin. And you have to empty that. And I didn't know that. I kept deleting everything in my phone, including 2 good videos I'd made, because my phone kept telling me I didn't have the space to make any more videos. So I was looking at my phone going, it's empty, what more do you want? And just started clicking things at random and stumbled upon, and would never find it again because I stumbled upon it, that I needed to empty the recycle bin, and it had like 1,500 things in it. So I emptied that, and hopefully this video will go well. Anyway, I'm making potato soup today, and unfortunately my stomach is not willing to have me taste it at all. So all we will see is how I make it. I have chopped and boiled potatoes. We all know how to do that, so I won't bother with that. But what I do is add 1 litre of chicken broth, no salt. I buy Knorr's 0 salt chicken bouillon because the ham adds enough salt. Now the last soup that I made, my friend who ate it told me it was a bit salty, and ham does tend to be very salty. I didn't add any salt at all, just like this, but the ham was still incredibly salty. So this time, because you can't find 0 salt bacon or ham, it's just in the curing process they use so much salt. But I've purchased a ready-to-eat honey roast ham, and I am naively hoping that it will have less salt in it. So good. Bring that up to a boil, and while that's coming to a boil, let's see if I can get the temperature up a bit. I'll have to just be careful to stir it a lot. While I'm doing that, I will chuck in the ham and hope for the best. And then I add a pot of cream. I used a little bit of this in something that I was making yesterday, trying to record, and it didn't work. So, but I pour in cream, and I'm not going to lick that. And believe it or not, I also put in a good chunk of butter. I know it's very French, but I've found that it makes a nice soup. A lot of us would make our soups much simpler. It's been our heritage for thousands of years, literally. And I've got the recipes set aside. I will be making at some point real Irish stews, things like that, that are these very ancient recipes. But today I'm just showing you what I do to make potato soup. And hopefully it won't be too salty. I won't know until I can eat it being honest, because I taste tested the soup that I made for my friends, and I didn't taste salt. But when they ate a bowl full of it with the ham and everything in it, of course, it was different. So taste testing doesn't do much good. This is white pepper. I put in quite a bit of fresh ground white pepper. I think the flavour that it gives to the soup is much better than black pepper. So that's what I do. And that simple, basic recipe, Lisa, is what I made your soup with. So I'm hoping that this one will come out less salty. As you can see, I don't add salt. The bouillon I used doesn't have salt. So it was purely the ham. And later on, when I make the Swedish yellow bean soup, I take whole yellow peas. It's what they use to make yellow lentils, split pea soup. But I found a place to buy them whole, which is what they use in Sweden. Whole yellow peas and ham and thyme, and it's very simple soup, quite delicious. And also, as a result of the ham, quite salty. So I'm hoping that I can find a less salty alternative, but I may not be able to. That's what it is. But this soup is already stirring up to be a very nice soup. I boiled chunks of potatoes until they were tender. You can process them in the food processor to make them into very like mash, but I like the chunks. So when I make mash, which is very similar to this, except that when I have the boiled potatoes, I actually use a potato masher and mash them up and pour in cream and butter. It's very much like the Irish dish champ. They make a mountain of mash with cream and butter in it, and then when they make the mountain up on the plate, they make a hole and just shove a big chunk of butter into it and serve it with buttermilk, which they got from churning the butter. And the reason they were doing that back in the day in Ireland was because they had so little. They had so little in the way of food. And it was hard graft living the way they did. The men needed an incredible amount of calories for very little variety. So the women who used to know about nutrition back in the day came up with this method. They had potatoes before the potato famine. They had potatoes, and so they used them. There's a lot of calories in all of that, and it made the men feel like they had a tummy full of something warm, and they could go out for their afternoon labours. So it's all about food. Isn't necessarily about pleasure. It's also about nutrition and what is needed, which is precisely what I used to do. I took that in school, nutrition and meal planning and all of that, cooking. But I will show you what's in the pot now. It's actually done. It's actually finished. I'll simmer it a little bit longer just to let the flavours go in a bit more, but it's actually finished, and that is what I have. A pot full of good, chunky, creamy potato soup. And I bet you chunky, creamy potato soup, and I wonder if you get to see that because of the steam. But I don't have one of those fancy cameras, so there you are. Let's hope it turns out well.